Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnackit.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnackit.sbnation.com.
This is the Black Gold Banneret Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Sharon and Eric Lopez.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez with you here on the busy Wednesday as we begin the month. This is March, as John Rothstein likes to say. Ain't that right, Eric?
Madness is about to begin, people. Best time of the year.
And we are going to start with, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to start with basketball, but we also have baseball and softball to talk about. We have UCF Track winning the indoor championship. Anne-Marie Blaney, UCF Track alum, talks with us about that and how difficult that is for UCF to pull off, considering we don't have an indoor track facility. Bryson is going to talk. Bryson and Eric are going to talk some softball and baseball. But by the way, a little bit later we will have Drew coming in to talk about Terry Mahadra's recent interview with the Orlando Sentinel and Jason Beatty, who's just been killing it for them. Congrats to Beatty; he's been great. Talking about the UCF extending their deal with Nike for 2 years, and Terry dropping some little hints at us about uniforms, which Drew is of course all about, and some conference news as well. But let's begin with hoops, and we have to begin with UCF women's basketball, who pulled it off. Man, they are peaking at the right time, and of course, joining us now for this is Kyle Nash, the student of the game, the SOTG on Twitter, who was there for UCF's game against Cincinnati when UCF just listen. You like to see, I think a team shows its real greatness, Kyle, when the task is before them and they understand the assignment. and UCF women's basketball certainly did, jumping out to a, 33-6 lead after one.
Yes.
And just kind of stiff arming Cincinnati the rest of the way. 74-39 was the final Saturday. UCF gets to raise that regular season trophy. First regular season championship for the Knights since 2005 when we were in the A-Sun. I was there for that. We didn't have confetti. We didn't have a trophy in the A-Sun for the regular season title. It was just, hey, look at that. We clinched first place. All right. We get the number 1 seed in Dothan, Alabama. Fantastic. Everybody got to play. 4 nights in double figures. Brittany Smith, I thought she was great. 7-12 for 16. Destiny Thomas, 7-10 for 16.
Got the double.
Yeah, Diamond Battles was 4 for 12 from the field, 12 points, but hit a couple of key shots late. Despite some struggles in that second quarter, though, in the third if you look at the first and the fourth, Kyle, UCF shot a combined 20 for 33 from the field, and for the entire game held Cincy to just 30.2%, 16 of 53, including just 5 for 23 in the first half. This was exactly what UCF does, turned up to 11, wasn't it?
That and more. Listen, you say understood the assignment. See, students understand the assignment. These ladies hit extra credit and then some, and there's a lot of them looking to teach the class next year, right? keeping the academic analogy alive, I am the student of the game. What did you think was going to happen? No. Also, if I don't touch on the domination in the paint in the form of rebounding with 43-29 in favor of UCF, that's a big deal too. It's funny. We're used to Tay Sanders taking it, or shooting it from the cheap seats. We're used to Diamond slashing her way to the basket, but we're not used to Destiny Thomas having the first 6 points of the contest with just domination and putbacks. It's that double-double was sealed to occur basically in that first quarter. And she's the one that kind of got the team off the ground to assure a fast start. And I think any women's basketball fans that follow UCF will note that this is the first non-USF game start that they had, and easily the best start of the year. And the numbers back that, looking at it. And listen, I don't remember Brittany Smith missing 5 shots. And you tell me 7 for 12, and I read it on the paper. And I'm like, I can't count these 5 shots she's missed. And oh, by the way, that's off the bench. And she almost had another double-double, taking nothing away from the guards. The post play was just indomitable throughout the game. And really, though UCF didn't score an awful lot in the second quarter, as you cite, still held their opponents to under 10 points.
Under 40.
I didn't mean for the game, Bryson. Under 10 points for the quarter and almost for the half, gentlemen.
Yeah, this is the 4th consecutive game that UCF has held an opponent under 40 points, 5 in a row under 50. Eric, this was the goal that UCF set forth. They finally accomplished it. What does it mean for the program?
Well, they get over the hump to win that, put up a banner. This group that came back, the seniors in particular, I mean, that's part of their goal. Now, as they told after the game, they're not done. They're going to have a conference tournament next week. They're going to leave Saturday to go to Fort Worth. They're going to be the top seed, and then try to go do the daily double, if you will, and then you go to the NCAA tournament. I think they want to make some noise. Charlie Cream, currently the bracketologist for ESPN, has them as a 7 seed currently, which would be the highest seed UCF's ever had in women's basketball, which means they would be the favorites likely in the opening round. Remember, this program has never won an NCAA tournament game, so there's still a lot to accomplish for them. I think this is just the first step in this journey for this team that, I think they, like I said, they really finished the job they thought they didn't last year. And I think this is the first step of what they hope is accomplishing multiple goals.
So UCF would play the winner of the conference championship starts Tuesday Monday, I beg your pardon, March the 7th. And the very first game at 2 p.m. Eastern in Fort Worth is the game that will determine who UCF plays in the first round. Or in the quarterfinals. UCF plays the winner of the 8-9 game, which at the moment, as of this instant, it would be between Memphis and ECU. UCF has handled, I think, both of those squads pretty easily. They beat Memphis by 14, the most recent meeting at home. Beat ECU by 9 in North Carolina back on January the 8th. So, and then from there, you're likely going to play the who is it? The 4, right? So yeah, so that would be SMU. Outlook, Eric, on this team right now, and then Kyle will finish off with you too there. On what does this path look like for them in terms of getting the double? Because I know that this is something that's, again, very much on their list of things to do. And could that help push their seed a little bit higher?
I don't know if it'll affect their seeding that much in the NCAAs. What's interesting is if they play SMU, they've not played SMU. That game got canceled basically and never got made up.
Yeah, so that's right. It was scheduled for, I forget where. Oh, it was scheduled for January 19th.
That's right, which we actually benefited from it because that allowed us to have Coach Abe on the show. So we appreciate that. But they haven't played him, and that's a new staff, so that could be tricky. The interesting thing is South Florida and Tulane will likely be on the other side of the bracket. Who's going to UCF potentially face in the final? I don't think it's a lock that it's USF. Tulane's actually played better basketball. Tulane actually has been a much more difficult matchup for UCF, believe it or not, this year than USF. So I'm kind of intrigued by that. Can the American get a 3-bid league? We don't know, but I think that's the tricky part for this team. Don't be surprised if they come out. I think it'll be interesting to see how they come out in that first round game and how they look. But look, the world's their oyster. I mean, this is a team that's historic. They're ranked in the top 25, first time ever in the coaches poll. They're 23 now. This team has a chance to it could go down as the greatest women's basketball team in program history. The question is, how far can they take it? And we'll start to get some. We'll see if they could do that next week with the daily double, and then go from there.
By the way, Kyle, huge controversy on Twitter over UCF being ranked in the coaches poll, but not in the AP poll. Still,
absolutely, yeah, no, I think that's absolutely an asinine at this point. And granted, I'm relatively new to the women's basketball arena, but it just doesn't make any sense to me.
What more do they have to do?
Right, you put the body of work out, and then the one misstep they took, they've certainly alleviated with Saturday's performance.
It's all about brands. I mean, again, you guys complain about football polls. Oh, they're not fair. I've told you a million times. The football polls are 100 times better than the other sports polls, especially women's sports polls. Because the problem is, I'm not surprised that it's the media poll that hasn't put UCF in, because they don't watch women's basketball. I mean, granted, not many do, but...
Wait a minute, though. Is that true? Florida Gulf Coast is sitting there at 22.
Yeah, and because they've been a perennial power over the last decade. They've been a perennial NCAA tournament team. UCF has not since Coach Abe has arrived. That's why I wrote for Black and Gold Banneret that Coach Abe is the modern era Torchy Clark of women's basketball. Because really, we've never seen this from UCF women's basketball before. Yeah, they've had, a year here and there where they've had success, but nothing to this extent. And now they're starting finally to get recognized a little bit. I would expect Coach Abe to finally win Coach of the Year in the American. That's been long overdue. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff's overdue. And Coach Abe even told us that, Kyle, in our media availability last week. This has been building now for 4 or 5 years. They didn't just all of a sudden get ranked. This was kind of building, and that's unfortunately, this is how polls work.
Sure, yeah, and listen, I'm not knocking your point about your branding and some of the cynicism tied in there too, but if attention isn't drawn to it by us, that it needs to be looked at, then how does it get changed? So I will maintain my stance of saying it's kind of ridiculous they're not there.
Yeah. Well, that's a media issue. I mean, I agree with you on that. I mean, a lot of the media are too busy worrying about, where Aaron Rodgers is going to hang out tomorrow instead of covering sports that are going on right now. And it's that's why I'm not surprised that the media poll is leaving UCF women's basketball, because they have they have nothing better to do.
There's a reason I chose the word
bull in a China shop.
There's a reason I use the word cynicism, gentlemen. It's not to diss Elo. It's just what
Let's worry about these billionaires and owners not reaching an agreement. Let's spend 100 hours on
I'm pulling it back. All right. Wednesday night. We're recording this on Wednesday morning. Wednesday night, 6 p.m. UCF is home for Tulsa. 6 p.m.
Walk over. Let's move on.
Tulsa's not too good.
We got more.
I mean, they're not too bad. They're 15-8 overall, 5-7 in the league, but this should be a dub. Obviously UCF would be favored, but you can't overlook this one, and it's senior night, and a lot of seniors bidding that you're bidding farewell to here, for this game. So yeah, this is going to be
not even the biggest Tulsa basketball game of the week.
Listen, again, to put it again in Eric's defense, grumpy as he sounds, he does happen to be right. Even Coach Abe and Diamond Battles both have said that the main focus of this game and what they plan to do with it is to give one last chance to lock in, which is coach/corporate players speak, team players speak for, we're going to roll them. We just need to make sure we actually do that without getting hurt.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, that's that. Now I've been there before in situations where, don't get hurt. Cause I don't know how many folks can remember this, but that last season that UCF won a regular season championship in the conference in the ASUN back in 2005, Celeste Hudson, who was our leading scorer, best shooter at the time, hurt her ankle badly at Belmont, and I think the second to last game of the regular season, or it might have been the last game of the regular season, and UCF was, went into the tournament in Dothan as the 1 seed, but severely, if you'll forgive the pun, hobbled without their best player, and it showed because UCF lost in the semis in a game where they really could have used Celeste. So yeah, the key is here. I think you're absolutely right, Kyle. Stay healthy, get through Tulsa, and start prepping for the tournament. Speaking of prepping for things, let's flip over to the men's side. Big senior night win for the men over Cincinnati to get to 17-9. They finished having won, 5 in a row at home. All right. They now go for this 2-game road swing to finish the regular season. They're at Tulane Thursday, 8 p.m. in New Orleans, and then Sunday, 2 p.m. at Tulsa. Here's the story for men's basketball right now. Obviously 17-9, 9-7 in the conference. At this instant, all right, at this particular moment in time, as we sit here just prior to noon on Wednesday, March the 2nd, UCF is in 5th in the American, which is good because you have to be in, because the top 5 get the bye to the quarterfinals. If you're in 6th or below, you have to play in the first round, and then the winners of those games play the top 3 seeds. Houston, of course, at the top, followed by SMU, Memphis, Temple, who UCF split with at 9-6 in the conference, and then UCF at 9-7. Actually tied with Tulane. UCF's in the 5 slot, Tulane's in the 6 spot. The reason why UCF is up top right now is because UCF got the victory over Tulane earlier at home. But this is the return game on the road, Kyle Nash. Mm-hmm. And this is not going to be an easy one against the Green Wave. They know that if they can beat UCF, I don't know what the tiebreaker is, but I think they could potentially leapfrog UCF, or at least make things extraordinarily difficult for them. UCF, in the meantime, wants to finish out with these last 2 wins, get to 19-9, and seal up that bye. All right. It's laid out before you right now, Kyle. So what were your impressions based on that victory over Cincinnati that UCF got on senior night? And that was big. And what are we seeing? What do you want to see from them against Tulane on Thursday?
I mean, the fact that they're doing what they're doing without Brandon Mahan is what got my impression. And when you see what happened with Isaiah Adams, that's the thing I want them to repeat. There's going to be a couple things that happened in that Cincy game that I don't respect. And listen, I know your dude, CJ Walker's a bad mamma jamma anyway. He was over and above on Cincinnati. I don't expect him to go 2 for 2 from 3-point land, for example, against Tulane. That would be awesome, Jeff. I hope it happens for you. But I don't expect that to necessarily occur in that particular context. For example, like the idea of repeatable things that we can get that happened in this game, to last game. I would love to see Bakke do another double-digit game scoring. I want to see 4. Well, and this is no different than any other Johnny Dawkins coach team. I want to see 4 double-digit scores. I want to see somebody else other than Darren Green with good shot selection. I want to see assists, not necessarily in the 20s, but let's call it 12 or more. I want to see team basketball that we got in that Cincinnati game. Those are the kind of things I'm looking for. But I think the most difficult, I shouldn't say difficult, the most challenging thing might be to see assure that Isaiah Adams is continuing to prove that wasn't just a fluke against Cincinnati. My problem is, and the same thing happened to the ladies, Eric, I respect that you got the opportunity to talk to Abe with that SMU postponement. It's been 8 days when they take the court tomorrow, and that lack of continuity is an issue in my mind.
No, I worry about that too. I worry about the long layoff. And look, this Tulane game is huge. If you beat Tulane, you've got the top 5 seed locked up because you have the tiebreaker over Tulane. You don't have to worry about having to win the Tulsa game. You could move up to 4, but really the 4-5 doesn't matter. It's just who's wearing the home jersey at that point. By the way, if they win this and finish top 5 seed, boys, they would meet their expectations. They were picked 5th in the preseason poll.
See, I was thinking about this walking up to the game, to the women's game on Saturday. You keep talking about the meeting of expectations, and that's accurate in a way, but keep in mind they're getting there with having some of the issues that they have throughout out there, with Brandon Mahan being hot and cold, with Isaiah Adams disappearing. Imagine if those guys were at potential. Maybe they could have beaten expectations,
Maybe, but I mean, Houston was always going to be better than them. SMU is better than them because they have the best, in my opinion, they have the best player in the league, who should be the player of the year, in Kendrick Davis. And Memphis is better because they have better talent. So UCF, even if they maximized their potential, I don't think would have beaten those 3 teams. Temple, you could argue they should be the 4. We go back to the home game against Temple. If they hold on to win that, they would be in position to be the 4th team right now.
Yeah, I'm with you on there. I think looking back on it, everyone got angry after the first Temple loss. Remember, we beat them in the first game in December, and then we lost them, but that was in Philadelphia, and we lost to them at home, and everyone was upset because everyone looked at Temple's net ranking at the time. But Temple's actually improved significantly. They're sitting there in 4th place. I thought when we lost them that they were a better team than everyone thought to begin with.
But you still got to win that at home. The problem is you had an 8-point lead late in the game. You have to win at home.
Yeah, I get it, but you could also stand back and say, you know what, we stole that one in Philadelphia from them. And if you come out of there with a split home and home, is anyone complaining? I don't think so.
The one loss that's going to cost this team the NCAA tournament bid is the South Florida game. If you win the South Florida game, you're in the bubble right now. You're in the.
Well, mix. I would say 2, and I would say the Wichita State game too.
Teams, it's hard to win there. I get losing at Wichita. South Florida, there was no excuse for that. No excuse for that. That's the one loss that I think when everybody looks back, it's like that cost you 30 spots, basically. I don't know what their net ranking is currently, but it probably would have been better up to 20 to 30 spots if you win that USF game.
I thought Wichita was ripe for the taking. I agree with you. That's always a tough place to play. But if they were able to win that game, right? If they had won both of those games, UCF would be at 11-5 right now.
Yeah, but now we're getting greedy. We're getting greedy there. They've never won at Wichita State, so that's why I don't really. To me, the USF one hurts.
That was the first time for everything.
Either way.
Let me take my spot on the therapist couch here for this one, because you're both making fantastic points. I will definitely hand you both Wichita State. Let's say Brandon Mahan and Isaiah Adams are playing up to air quotes potential that we thought that we might expect from them. 40 free throws would not have canceled that out. You're going to lose the Wichita.
Agree with, especially in Wichita, where they definitely love to hand out free throws. Yes.
Right. However, if either one of them show presence in, they could have won the Oklahoma game, which they only lost by 3. They could have
had the ball with a chance to tie.
Correct. They could have won, in my mind, even though the deficit was large. I think it's a matter of nobody stepping up. If Mahan or Zay step up in that game, that's a completely different game. Maybe they went in a squeaker, but at least they sweep USF to expectation.
Agreed. No, and you're the clearly a better team than South Florida. That's why that's the one that bothers you, because you're clearly a better team than them, and that was the disappointing thing there.
And I think that Temple loss, though, Jeff, your defense of, hey, we stole that one is good. I think they win the Temple game at home,
right?
If you got Zay and Mahan doing the thing. So in my mind, I guess what I'm saying is 22-6 was an opportunity, right? I'm assuming
that's basketball. I mean, there's games that could have lost both games to East Carolina. So some of that evens out. But you bring up a great point, Kyle. Isaiah Adams coming off his best game. To me, that's the key, right? If he can play at that level, they have a chance to make some noise in this conference tournament. If he doesn't, I don't think they're going to make any noise. To me, that's the key here this week and into the conference tournament is Isaiah Adams. That's the guy that can replace Mahan's production. To me, that's the key guy there. You saw him play his best game of the year.
Yeah, he was really what I liked about him, and I want to know what you thought, Kyle. He was more aggressive in that game, taking the ball to the hole than he was at any time. And that's not to say, I mean, he did step back and hit 2 or 3 for threes. And I think that you got to do that. If you're in his position, you got to present that threat, but man, was he aggressive. And that's the part that I like to see the most. 12 points, didn't record any rebounds with 4 or 5 from the field, 2 of 2 at the line. If that keeps progressing, that's going to be he's so tough to guard because he's so rangy and long, and and I thought defensively he played really well too.
Yeah, well, and you got to. It's weird. It's weird with Mahan how many times I have to look again to see if he's a guard or a forward because of the way he plays sometimes, and also with Perry Johnson out there. I can't call them Darius. Perry and Johnson out there too. Like that kind of makes it interesting. So I think part of him had to maybe make that transition in his mind to play more forward than guard. Like I said, Zay's listed as a forward. Mahan's listed as a guard, but they're both the guys I think that are most like each other on the roster. That's why they switch out a lot. But you say aggressive. I feel like the game was just a faster tempo than usual. And Isaiah apparently fits into that. Did he do anything where I was felt like he was, going to start screaming out, yeah, it's the juggernaut? No, nothing like that. But he was able to meld well with a faster pace of the game. There were a lot of situations where there were just a lot of turnovers, a lot of team basketball where there was passing. And I'll put it this way. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. The next team is not going to dominate the perimeter or try to dominate the perimeter the way that Cincy did with the same reckless abandon. I'm going to see if Zay can actually be aggressive rather than just take advantage of the tempo. I'm not saying he was unaggressive, but it didn't leap off the page for me necessarily.
No, it's big games. It's big games here. Big games, by the way. If they can win out here, and let's say win the opening round 4-5 game, get to the semis, I think they can make the NIT. And I think if they make the NIT, that's a successful season. That's, to me, when we did their preseason show, Jeff, back in, I don't know, when the heck was that? October? November? November, probably. I said the goal for this team should be a postseason tournament. I never said NCAA. I said postseason. With a couple of breaks, maybe you make the NCAA. But if you can make the NIT, to me, that's a successful season with this program. And right now, according to our NIT bracketologist, Drew Glukoff, here at Black Gold Banneret, UCF's a 5.
Really good at reading the ratings from dratings.com anyway.
I'm just reading it from
proper source in there. Thank you very much.
I'm just reading it from Drew on his chatter, so I don't know where he's getting it. I don't ask questions. You can ask him later.
I know where he's getting it from.
They're a 5 seed. Boy, if we could get to that 4 seed, Jeffrey, that's a home game. That's a home game.
I know. Hey, listen. Who are the other 5 seeds in the NIT right now, according to this bracketology? Like, who are we on a par with? Virginia, Washington State, Fresno State. Who would we be playing?
Yeah.
Mississippi State.
Oh,
Missouri, all right. Missouri State, Texas A&M, or Santa Clara. So
I want Mississippi State for obvious. That's a lot.
Well, don't we? Yeah, keep an eye for pretty obvious reasons. But yeah, it's interesting where you can kind of like compare, like, okay, approximately where in the hierarchy of college basketball are we right now? And I think that's a pretty interesting comparison. But again, like you said, one thing first. First things first. You got to win this Tulane game. I think you got to. I think you really do got to win that Tulsa game on the road. Get to 19 wins before you get into the conference championship. Go in there at 19-9. If you win, all you got to do is win one game and you hit 20 wins.
And what was it, 4 weeks ago or so, Jeff, where we said 19-9 was the best case scenario?
Yeah, that was the best. Yeah, that's exactly right. Best case scenario is 19-9. And you know what? It's sitting right there. So let's go and take it. They're playing well right now. And I've told people this time and time again. The whole point about college basketball, it's not like college football. We need to stop thinking about college basketball the way we think about college football. And I'm pounding my desk so that everyone can hear me on this.
Wow.
All right?
Wow.
The point of college basketball is, are you playing your best ball at the end of the season? When you have the end of the regular season, you have the conference championship, and then hopefully you have an NCAA or NIT championship laying in front of you. That's the
especially
point
for this program, especially for this program, which does not have a lot of history, and you're not in a state of Florida that's great in basketball. All the talent in this state leave the state. They go to brand schools. in the American, there's only really one program that can get lottery picks. That's Memphis. Not even Houston gets lottery picks. He kind of develops them there, but he has great tradition there. They can, Calvin
Not to
Sampson
mention the funding, by the way.
And the funding. They have a ton of money. But they have tradition. Calvin Sampson can come into a recruit and show him, hey, look, this is Clyde Drexler and Hakeem Olajuwon. We come to our recruits.
Hey, look, Elvin Hayes is over there. Yeah. Is over here calling our games. He beat Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at UCLA.
Yeah, we come here and we're like, so it's nice campus over here. That's all we got. Yeah,
it is a nice campus.
That's all we got. Yeah, that's what we got.
But hey, that tradition has got to start somewhere. And I'll tell you, we saw, I remember, I think back to that NIT year with Taco and BJ and all that, right? I mean, there were some disappointing moments in that season, but
it was a great year.
Everyone forgot about it with that NIT run, right?
How this team finishes the year will determine how this season will be looked at, to your point.
I agree.
And I don't think 100%. Any of us would argue that they aren't playing their best basketball right now.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. And I think that, but again, got to win this Tulane game. I think it's so critical to get that one in the bag. Assure yourself of that first round bye, and get the rest that you need. And one last thing, Kyle, we don't know anything about Brandon, right? We've never heard if he's actually out for the year, or if he could come back at any point.
So the scuttlebutt with that is, according to what we've heard from Johnny in the post game after Cincinnati, was that the hope is we'll get him back for potentially conference tournament play. Certainly, if there's anything beyond that. I think that's a bit aggressive personally. I don't know the exact nature of the injury, but when I see boot, my mind immediately goes to 6 weeks.
And crutches.
Well, the crutches, to me, based on my injury experience, crutches are just there to indicate you need stability. So, the boot is what scares me, because that means you're trying to set something, you're trying to stabilize it more than just make it easier and less damaging to walk around, if that makes sense. The crutches are an indicator. The boot is a worse indicator for me. I mean, that's a boot. So, in my
non-medical spokesperson, results may vary.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, how each person heals is different. I mean, I'm as close to medical you can get without having an LPN or an RN. Okay, like I could go down the list of my healthcare credentials, but I'll nerd people out. But the punchline is, based on it could vary. But back when I was in peak condition, I would turn around from, let's say, lower extremity injuries relatively quick, but a boot is a whole other ball game.
Yeah, you don't know what you're going to get with that. So, I mean, hey, listen, here's to the optimism. Maybe a little bit of Ewing theory playing in right now to use a Bill Simmons reference with Brandon out there. Hey, we'll have to see, but that's where we stand right now with hoops, and a big week of games coming up. Senior night, Wednesday night tonight, if the day we're recording this, for the women, and of course the men at Tulane on Thursday, and of course weekend games coming up in the conference tournament coming up next week as well. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, UCF Track and Field winning the indoor championships. Anne-Marie Blaney, senior from 2017, highly decorated athlete at UCF. Who has some conference championships of her own on her own mantelpiece, gets to talk with us about the indoor championship, how truly difficult it is for UCF to do. And also we're going to talk about baseball and softball coming up in a little bit as well. Stick around. The Black Gold Banneret Podcast is back after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon with you, along with Bryson Turner. And, of course, UCF Track and Field with a tremendous victory in the American Athletic Conference Indoor Championships, which we talked about a little bit earlier. And joining us now is a veteran of UCF who's got some medals and trophies of significant proportions on her mantelpiece. Anne-Marie Blaney, a record holder at UCF, who also has been has her eyes set on the Olympics, had them set for 2021, and hopefully we'll see you in 2024. Anne-Marie, thank you for taking time for us once again to talk some UCF track.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So my first question is, in general, we here at UCF, we don't have an indoor track facility, right? So it is different where kind of every meet is a road meet. So tell us about when you were training at UCF, even as a distance runner, and talking about your friend, some of your teammates who were in some of the other events. How is training for the indoor season when you don't have a true indoor facility different than training and preparing for the outdoor season?
Yeah, so you're definitely, I would say the biggest difference is you're definitely on the road a lot more. You are basically at a meet every other week. So I feel like not having indoor track, we had the luxury of continuing to train outside and in the good weather. We could use, the field house and things like that if we really want to get that indoor feel. But yeah, the indoor track is hard because I don't believe there is one in Florida anymore. I know the University of Florida used to have one.
I think the O-Dome used to be that, right? I'm
maybe.
not 100% sure. I can't remember. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But I really don't think that not having indoor track ever hinders the training. Yeah, you can't practice the curves and the straightaways, but every track, even every indoor track can be different. Because I know the UCF team, we used to go to Kentucky, and their indoor track is quite a bit bigger than a 200. So it just varies. And then you have all the banked tracks and all the different things like that. So training wise, there really wasn't a huge difference. As long as, the athletes don't see it as a disadvantage, then training can kind of go along as normal.
So looking at the results, I mean, several winners here from UCF, but I think the big highlights were, of course, Renaya Jones winning the 60 meters in 7.31. She also won the 200 in 23.35, and she pulled off the triple, winning the 60 hurdles in 7.9. Now, I know sprints aren't your thing, but based on what you know, which is wildly more than any of us know, how hard really is that to do?
It's definitely difficult. You have to be ready to perform sometimes back-to-back events. And just doing that many races all in one weekend can really tear your body up, and kind of mentally, you're having that adrenaline pump every single time. And she's giving, all she's got for each of these events. And I was able to catch a couple of the events this weekend watching, and she was just amazing to watch her run. So definitely well-deserved. And she could beat a lot of other conferences as well, which was pretty cool to see, because I tuned into a couple other conferences as well. And it was just awesome to be telling my friends, wow, she could win other conferences as well. So
you were on the
sorry, Bryson, go ahead.
Yeah, you were on the team the last time that UCF won an American Athletic Conference indoor title back in 2017, and this time around they actually broke the meet record, winning with 156.5 points. Can you just kind of talk about like what an entire team has to go through in order to achieve the result that we saw?
Yeah, so you're definitely going into battle together. It's totally a team event, even though everybody needs to perform individually. So I remember always kind of having that like battleship mentality where we're going into this and everybody needs to give it their all. We all want to be in the top 8 to get those, even like if it's 1 point, 2 point, every single point matters. So to have everybody always trying to spread their talents across multiple events or just giving it their best in what they typically excel at is just a really cool feeling to know that we're all out there doing our thing, but all with the common goal. So it was definitely a very special moment in my running career. And it's kind of cool that these girls also get to experience everything the same as well. It's just so awesome to see UCF, doing well, especially in the sport that I participated in for so long.
Yeah. So speaking about participation, one of a record that you were involved in actually got broken over the weekend. The distance medley team ended up getting the silver medal by running an 11:29.94 time, which breaks the program record that you set with a few of your teammates back in 2016. So can you tell me what it was kind of like to set that record, and kind of explain to me how what you go through with distance medley races to get the result that we did?
Yeah, so I just see my name slowly fading away from the record books, which is bittersweet, but also so awesome because everybody is just getting faster and faster. So it's only right that the records get broken. But the DMR is definitely a very special event, just because it takes, all the way down from like sprinting to distance events and brings us all together to kind of run one really exciting relay. So, I mean, it's just putting together the best squad that you think will run on that day. And then every second counts in that event as well. Just like every point matters, every second in the TMR matters. And I think they got it by just a few seconds too. But I mean, they're raising the bar for the future. So I love that.
Can you talk about what it's like running the anchor leg? Because junior Charlotte Crook, who's really been showing out lately in some of the longer events, including some that you run in yourself. Can you talk about kind of specifically running the anchor leg for a distance medley team?
Yeah, I mean, any anchor leg, man, you have to watch everything that goes down for that whole race. Whereas the first person, they go right out the gates, giving it their all. But I mean, the last person, they're watching everything that happens, like if the baton's dropped, if someone trips, anything like that. And then, you have to see, you're going to give it your best, but there's almost like this pressure to make up for any lost time. And you can kind of do calculations in your head or have your goal time kind of like hovering. And so there's definitely a lot of pressure as far as being the anchor leg goes. But I mean, the feeling of being the last one to bring the team home, I think makes up for that.
Let's talk about the NCAAs now, because obviously with UCF getting the conference championship, how does that now factor into the NCAA championships? Because we do have also 2 individual runners qualifying for the indoor championships, but this is things are going to step up now another level in competition, right?
Definitely. Yeah. I would say indoor is arguably like one of the most difficult NCAA championships to be involved in. It's so intimate. They only pick, a certain number of competitors for each event. And there's no regionals. There's nothing like that. So it really is the best of the best. And that's their one chance to shine in their last indoor meet. But also athletes, can't get down if they don't get invited because they're not in the top, even the top 20 in the US, like, because that's so hard in itself because there's so many athletes. So that's where outdoor, you kind of have regionals to motivate you a little bit more after conference, rather than just like everyone now who's not moving on has to kind of take their downtime, spring break or whatever it is, and then move on and prepare for the next season, which isn't necessarily bad either because it's a long year, especially if you're doing cross country on top of that. So, but it is very difficult to make. So it's definitely an achievement that they should be proud of.
Yeah, you were the last UCF track athlete to make it to the indoor championship back in 2017. And before that, no track athlete made the indoor championship since 2013, back in the days of Octavius Freeman and Ariel Scott. Can you just kind of talk about, like, because I saw Coach Dana Boone tweet about how tough it is to make to make this meet, and can you kind of give us an insight into that toughness just from a training perspective? Because you mentioned it's the best of the best. So
yeah. So it's hard. You got to play your cards right with picking, like, which event do you want to go for if you feel like you're on the cusp of making it. And I mean, I tried every single year to make it to the indoor meet, and I only made it once. So I feel like that's just a testament to itself that it is a difficult meet to make. And if you can make it in multiple events, wow, that's so awesome. But I mean, yeah, you just got to keep going and know that there's another season. I guess that's what motivated me. And then when I finally made it, I don't know, I couldn't believe it. It was definitely, I'm so glad I had that experience. But it did go by really fast.
What was your event in the indoor that you were best at?
I ended up going to nationals for the 5,000.
5K. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then I squeezed by on the podium with 8th.
Well, when you're training for an event like that, how much actual running are you doing every day in order to be at your best heading into that event?
It depends on what the mileage was. I think I would say I would do about a week of what they call tapering. So where you don't, I mean, because we would run so hard at conference that you got to keep yourself still fresh to compete your best at nationals, which is a hard balance to play because some athletes get more tired than others. But I think if I remember correctly, we kept the mileage pretty low, and then you do a lot of like shorter, faster reps to sharpen the legs. So definitely more track work back home at UCF is what we would do. But yeah.
And then after the NCAAs, even though we have two, Renee is going for 2 events, and
Latasha Smith is going for the 400 meter dash.
One other, right. The rest of the team, though, is now moving over to the outdoor season. So what changes are made in your or are any changes made in your training regimens when you switch from indoor to outdoor?
I think just the training is going to generally stay the same. You definitely have to focus on taking that break, because otherwise, if you plan on going or qualifying for nationals all the way down the line for outdoor, that's a very long season. So I always took my breaks pretty seriously, as in like doing not too much. But really training wise would be about the same. And just making sure that you take care of anything that might have been bothering you during indoor season, like injury wise, anything that could maybe derail your outdoor season, I think is a very wise thing to address in between seasons, if something's going on with anyone. But that would be like my main focus between the 2 seasons. Yeah.
All right. Anne-Marie Blaney joining us. Now, but by the way, before we let you go, give us an update on where you are right now, what you're doing, and what your plans are on the professional circuit.
Yeah. So I live and train in Rochester Hills, Michigan. Have my sights set on a marathon next, but I don't think I can disclose which one yet. They make you wait before announcing your schedule. But definitely getting in some good training. Marathon mileage is definitely different than any mileage I ever experienced for a 5K or 10K in college. So, but yeah, so everything's going really well here. Just trying to stay warm.
I bet this time, and okay. So, but wait a minute. Let me ask you this. When we see you at the 2024 Paris Olympics, which event are we going to see you in? Going to be the marathon?
I would say, yeah, the slower and longer the distance, then that's what I'm going to be in. So the marathon, because I'm pretty good at clicking off some paces and going for a while.
Well, we follow you. I mean, I remember we were following. I don't know if she was a teammate of yours. You guys may not have crossed paths, but Erica White's also, I think was chasing after the Olympic marathon. I don't know if she's trying to go for Paris again, but this is something that we really enjoy because you guys work so hard, and Bryson and I are both incredibly fascinated. I mean, we're both Olympic nerds, but we're so fascinated by just the precision that you guys work so hard at optimizing every last little step to get the most out of everything that you get. And it's totally mind-boggling. And the more insight that you can give us into that, I think the more appreciation that not only we, but UCF fans have for the incredible work that you guys do.
Yeah, definitely. Anything for sharing the sport. So I'm glad for what you guys do as well.
And for what it's worth, I hope we see, hopefully we might see another UCF athlete maybe join you in Paris in 2024.
I know. That would be awesome.
Boy, Renee and Anne-Marie 2024, we are starting the campaign right now. All right. Yeah. This is happening. Anne-Marie Blaney, thank you so much. UCF Track alum. And where can people follow you, Anne-Marie, for the latest on where you are and what you're doing?
I'm most active on Instagram. So just AM Blaney on Instagram.
AM Blaney on Instagram. Anne-Marie, thank you so much for your time and your incredible insight. Stay warm, stay healthy, and we'll keep following you. And hey, what do you say we get back together again come the outdoor championships?
Yeah, I'd love to.
All right. Thanks, Anne-Marie. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
Wow. Thanks to Anne-Marie for her insight. Really appreciative of her, and best of luck to her in her pro marathoning career. We'll be keeping an eye on that as the weeks, months, and of course years progress. Bryson Turner's back with me along with Eric Lopez to just debrief real quick off of track and field. What a performance! When you look back at it, Bryson, what was the big standout here for UCF? Obviously, we talked about Renaya Jones, winning all the events we talked about, but who else, really deserves some props in your opinion?
Well, I think definitely all the props in the world goes to Brittany Floyd. She managed to break the pentathlon record again and win the gold medal while she was at it. So that was a great job by her. Ashira Collins. Now, I did not know this because we were watching I believe I was at the women's basketball game at the time, and so I wasn't paying all the way attention. But Ashira Collins managed to get the gold medal after she to beating a jump that was just a centimeter ahead of her. One of her opponents had jumped a centimeter ahead of her, and she went and beat that on her last jump to get the gold medal in the triple jump. So there was that. We mentioned the distance medley team who got a silver medal with Anne-Marie Blaney. Jasmine Scott Kilgo podiumed in the long jump. We mentioned Latasha Smith, who's going to be going to the NCAA championship in the 400-meter dash. Kaylor Harris managed to get the bronze in the 60-meter hurdle in the same event as Renaya Jones. Sierra Holback got the silver medal in the 60-meter dash with Renaya as well. And we Charlotte Crook and Katie Pinnell, both podium, got the silver and bronze respectively in the 800-meter dash. The 4x400-meter relay team got the gold medal as well. Latasha Smith, Kia Williams, Danielle Best, and Sammy Yara Bradwell. And finally, Kalia Jones got a bronze medal in the high jump. You can read much more detail about this in my article about the situation where there are also links where you can see the full results.
All right. And also 2 UCF nights, like we said, qualifying for the NCAA indoor championships, which will be held in Birmingham in just 9 days, March 11th and 12th. And this is at the place where UCF competed in the American Championships. Renaya Jones qualified for the 60-meter dash. She also also Latasha Smith is in the 400-meter dash with her time, and Renaya, of course, the 60-meter hurdles. She's got 2 indoor events.
First person ever to do that, by the way. First person to ever qualify for both the 60 and the 100, as both the 60 dash and the 60 hurdles at the same time. And Latasha Smith is the first person ever to qualify for the 400-meter dash. I mean, we've talked about
hard to do, really hard to do, and especially in the indoor, where like Anne-Marie was saying, there aren't a lot of opportunities to qualify for that. So you get that, you're one of the best. Yes, all right. Sir. Let's go to softball. Eric Lopez. All right. Another tournament at home. UCF right now 11-6. They go 4-1 in the home tournament with wins over Ole Miss, James Madison, who they run ruled, by the way. That's a College World Series team from last year that they run ruled. 2-0 over DePaul, 3-0 over Oakland on Monday. Only blemish was a 12-11 shootout with number 4 Florida. Another exciting game at the Plex. This one didn't quite turn out. Boy, we were thinking it when Shannon Doherty came up down 1 in the 7th. I was thinking, oh my God, is she going to do this again?
Yeah, Tim Walton's like, no way, man. I'm going to walk her.
Yeah. Which unfortunately for UCF ended up being the right decision. But hey, 4-1 again. Another really good weekend for Coach Bear and the squad, huh?
Big success. As I wrote on Black Gold Banneret, this was a night classic, very successful. To me, 4-1, this was a regional quality feel. That's what Coach Ball Malone said on Monday after the win against Oakland. All these teams might end up in the NCAA tournament. But the big thing to me, the Ole Miss game, Shannon Doherty, walk-off homer, second time, goes virtual. To me, and I wrote this on the Banneret, Jeff.
Another bat flip for the ages.
She's the face of the program, right? Don't you feel like, to me, I could feel it. She's that favorite. She's the face of the program. She's the player that you're not a softball fan. Even if you're not a softball fan, you now know who she is because of what she's done. Like it was funny because obviously I look at Twitter after the game. I'm done with the broadcast, and I just see all the Shannon tweets, and it's just kind of crazy. That was a dramatic game. The Florida game you mentioned, 3 hours and 40 minutes, longest 7-inning game in UCF softball history, highest scoring UCF Florida game ever. UCF scored the most runs against Florida. Put this in perspective. Florida pitching staff, which is among the best in the country, had given up only 11 runs in the previous 15 games prior to the UCF game. They give up 11. And honestly, if UCF just make a couple of plays defensively, there was a base running mistake late in the game, they win that game. But that's what happens when you have a young team. You're going to have some miscues like that. I think they're going to, Coach Ball Maloney even told us that afterwards, that's some of the things they're working on. And they're going to work on here to get a couple days of practice before they host South Carolina and Florida Gulf Coast. But there's a lot of positives. Caitlin Felton, shutout against JMU, you mentioned. Grace Jewell, shutout against DePaul. Those are 2 of your young guns there. And offensively, I think they're starting to figure some things out. But, man, it was a wild weekend. I've never called a game like the Florida game before, where it was that was a seesaw affair, slugfest.
Now, South Carolina and Florida Gulf Coast coming in. What are the outlooks on those 2 teams right now?
Well, Florida Gulf Coast knocked off Texas opening weekend when they hosted them in the tournament, so they're going to be up and ready to go for this game. What's interesting, UCF starting center fielder Janisha Rowe transferred from there to come here. So we'll see how that goes from that standpoint. And then South Carolina is a team that UCF played last year. Carolina won 2 out of 3 at home, so this is kind of a return trip. It's a home and home. Carolina's an SEC team. They're a team that's been to the NCAA tournament, Beverly Smith and company. So we could have some more drama, which is what we've had this year with UCF against the SEC. So I would expect another wild weekend in that regard. UCF ranked in every poll, by the way. I think they're 25th in the ESPN poll, 24th in the NFCA. So we'll see if to maintain that. They're going to do well at home because they go on the West Coast trip after this tournament. So this is a big homestand. You want to keep the momentum that you built last weekend and build that into this weekend before you go out west for a week.
Yeah, I'm looking at that Western trip, and hey, Coach Paul Malone going back to her old stomping grounds of Pacific too on Tuesday, right? She's really looking forward to that, isn't she?
It'll be the first time that she will be there as a visiting head coach. She has not played her, and she'll be facing her mentor, Brian Cozy there. It's kind of like Brady versus Belichick in softball, except they get along, and there's no drama there. Although we think Brady Belichick get along. But anyway, yeah, that'll be emotional there, and she'll get to see. And I'll be curious how the players, a young roster, handles that West Coast trip. How do they handle that hoopla? Because I'm sure they're going to honor Coach Paul Malone in Pacific. So that'll be a part of that, and then they'll go into a tournament there. Iowa State's an NCAA tournament team, Nebraska, but it starts this weekend at home. They got to take it. It's a kind of a quirky little tournament because they'll play South Carolina twice, and they'll play Florida Gulf Coast 3 times. So it's like they're playing 2 series at once. We'll see how they handle that against this, team. Those 2 teams are going to be gunning for them. Florida Gulf Coast, I'm sure, will be ready to go. And South Carolina, obviously, is a big series there. You're trying to add up to the resume. You look at UCF, they have wins over Ole Miss, Georgia, Texas Tech, who just upset Philip Rossman-Reich, our friend's beloved Northwestern team that was in the top 10 in the polls. So that's a good win. But I'm excited to see it. And Michaela Macario, the reigning American Conference Player of the Week, the freshman shortstop. Jeff, I had a couple of alums text me thinking, man, she reminds them a lot about Tiffany Lane, who played at UCF from 2008 to 2011 and hit that memorable 2-run homer against Houston to win this USA championship. So a lot of positives, a lot of excitement, a lot of eyeballs. Now we'll see how they respond a week later against good competition with maybe less fanfare because there's a big marquee series across the street from them at the same time.
Yeah, it's going to be, this is going to be a wild next couple weeks coming up. And you wouldn't want it any other way as we head into March. End of March starts conference play. You got USF coming in or you're going to USF in Tampa at the end of March.
Conference starts then,
yeah. So, man, this is gonna get fun. This is gonna get a lot of fun. So, now let's flip over to baseball. I want to get Bryson up in here on this. Baseball got a big win yesterday, and with as Brian Murphy likes to say, Johnny Holstaff getting the win for UCF baseball 5-3 over Stetson as they get ready to play number 2 Ole Miss in a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's at home. But let's look at where this team is right now. 7-1. They had the 3-game series at Georgia Southern. Won 2 out of 3 up in Statesboro. Bryson did get the loss and got hung with the loss in the middle game, but came back and put 10 runs on the board on Sunday. So, 4 in 1 week, when you include that Stetson game is not a bad place to be right now as you get ready for the number 2 team in the country to come in.
Yeah, I would say so. I think also that this series really showed the strength of this pitching staff. This pitching staff, Lovelady said that all 3 of them, Litchfield, Stain, and Pattison, can all start on Friday, and I think they did prove that this week. Despite the 2-3 loss with Georgia Southern, it wasn't Connor Stain's fault. He didn't allow any runs in his 4 innings of action. Those runs would come later off of relief pitchers, but. So I think that as far as the pitching staff goes, I think we're fairly solid. And if there's any team that can handle Ole Miss, I would definitely trust those guys. My big worry is going to be offensively because looking back at the schedule, we have not scored besides that one Georgia Southern game where we won 10-1. The UCF had not scored more than 5 runs. And I think that run support is definitely going to be something you'd want to have for the number 1 team in the country. Now, the good news is that a couple of players have been doing good with that regard. Nick Romano, Ben McCabe, Jeffrey Pena, they've been doing Riley Walsh. They've been hitting fairly well, but you can't rely on them alone. You're going to need much more of the players to be able to step up at least on one or an at bat or 2, especially when you're going up against the number 2 team in the country. The good news is we did beat them out in Oxford before last season, and now we're at home. So I would hope to imagine some home field advantage would be nice there. And so, but hey, John Rice Plumlee might not get to play against his former school, but this is still a very engaging series.
Yeah, I want to bring this point up because this is actually pretty interesting. The top 4 hitters on UCF right now are all among qualifiers are all over 350. Jeffrey Payne's hitting 438. Nick Romano and Ben McCabe are both hitting the exact same average, 393, 11 for 28 at the plate. Riley Wash is off to a very good start, 7 of 20. He's 350. But then there's a big drop off, and before you get to Michael Brooks, who's 5th on the team at 250. So they are getting production, but I think against Stetson last night, we saw a little bit more production that we were from some other guys who may not have been hitting all that well. Alex Freeland hit that home run last night. That was a key hit.
Oh yeah.
And now he's up to 222. Who are you looking to see, kind of heat up here with the potential to heat up for Ole Miss?
I would say Alex Freeland and Tom Joseph. Look, I think Alex Freeland is an absolutely excellent hitter. I just think he's not had the best start to his season, and sometimes that happens. And so I would definitely keep an eye on Alex Freeland, because even though the stats might not show it, he can be very dangerous at the plate. And then Tom Jostin as well. Jostin, we've seen this at ball. He can rake that baseball. So I would definitely keep an eye on him as well. He could definitely hit it yard as well. And one thing to keep an eye on, Jeff, is that when we talked to Greg Lovelady, he mentioned that he would be kind of experimenting a bit with the lineup up until this game. So we've seen in past iterations of the lineup where we've had like maybe Michael Brooks was out in left field last night. You have Nick Romano playing a little bit of third base. You had Cole Russo playing a bit of first base and third base and moving some players around. So during this Ole Miss series, I'm very intrigued to see how this lineup is, because now that, Coach Lovelady has had these few games to experiment with a lineup and see what works and what doesn't, I'm very intrigued to see what he'll do for this weekend's lineup against Ole Miss, because I think that could be a very good indication of where he will go lineup wise for the rest of the season.
All right, so baseball once again facing Ole Miss.
Couple things.
Home.
Yeah, couple
ahead,
things
Eric.
to keep in mind. Last year they played in Oxford. UCF won 2 out of 3. Ole Miss returns pretty much almost everybody back from last year's team. They're one of the best offenses in college baseball. So
they don't return John Rice Plumlee, though.
No, but they return a ton.
He got it. Remember, he got his first career hit against UCF. Yeah.
Correct. He did. But this will be a challenge for the UCF pitching staff this weekend. Expected a big crowds for this. Making sure, everybody, if you're going to go to baseball or softball, try to get there earlier than normal. This is going to be a chaotic weekend on campus. AEW. They're taking over the arena, the Addition Financial Arena. They're having a big pay-per-view on Sunday night. They're doing their Dynamite TV show on Friday night. They're doing a Fan Fest Saturday. So parking is going to be tricky this weekend. I don't know why they agreed to let all of this go on at the same time. I don't make those decisions, but make sure you make a note of that, because there's going to be a lot of people going to baseball, people going to softball, and there's going to be a lot of people going to Addition Financial Arena. So it's going to be a little busy on campus. So make your plans accordingly.
That Eric Lopez is looking at the Google Calendar, making sure everybody's on the right. I know.
I got to go get my tickets.
Wait, are you going to be going back and forth between softball and AEW? Admit it.
That's what I'm going to work on. That's why I'm going to leave the show a little early. I'm going to leave the show a little early. I got to leave the show a little early, and I got to get a head start here. It's going to be
all right. Well, let's let you go. Eric Lopez joining us. Eric Lopez Elo on Twitter. He's got to go, and also thanks to Bryson. Bryson's going to stick around. We come back. Third segment. Stat Boy Drew, Andrew Glukov, is going to join us to talk some UCF apparel news. Nike re-upping with UCF for 2 years, and maybe some uniform stuff that Terry Mohajir was talking about. All right. We'll talk about that and more when we get back. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Back after this. We are back here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, along with Bryson Turner and Andrew Glukov, joining us now for this third segment where we kind of wrap things up. But there's some big news, which is why I wanted to bring Drew in here, because not only is he our football guy, he's also our resident uniform and sports aesthetics expert. here at Black and Gold Banneret. And let's give some props to our boy Jason Beatty from the Orlando Sentinel, who has been killing it out there and dropped a couple pieces actually that he did with Terry after talking with Terry Mohajir, where Terry had some interesting things to say about where UCF is heading in the next year or so, Drew. So the first big thing is UCF has decided to re-up with Nike for 2 years. Contract was expiring this year. Is that right? And they're re-upping for 2 more years. That gets UCF into the Big 12. So possibility, obviously, we'll have to see how this all goes because, like Eric was saying, it depends on Texas and Oklahoma. But at least right now, the plan is UCF's last 2 seasons in the American, they will still be a Nike school, and then things may indeed go to open market when UCF transfers to the Big 12. The other interesting thing that Terry Mohajir said was UCF is going to be moving away from anthracite in their uniforms. Obviously, anthracite's been goes back to the Scott Frost days as an alternate third color. I liked it. I thought it was cool. A nice little alternative from black. Also, I don't know about the performance issues with that because like anthracite doesn't absorb light as much as black does. And when you're talking about playing in the Florida heat, that could be a factor. But you've got a piece right now up on the site on Black and Gold Banneret with kind of summarizing everything. What are your big takeaways here from this news that dropped?
Well, I like, and if you read the article, which was just dropped on Black and Gold Banneret, I attribute what just happened to a bridge deal, which is common in hockey, where you come from, like, say, your rookie contract, you sign this short-term bridge deal, and then you get the big contract after. So this was kicking the can down the road. And Terry Mohajir,
maybe like forgive me for interrupting, maybe like a franchise player tag in the NFL.
Kind of, but a little bit longer. In the case, I use Braden Point, Tampa Bay Lightning player as an example. He had a 3-year contract. He had a 3-year rookie deal that was worth $2 million and change. Then he signed his 3-year bridge contract worth $20 million, and then this year, which will apply to next season, signed an 8-year, $76 million deal. So that bridge one just kind of carries him through in between the rookie one and the big one, so they can get salaries all figured out and stuff because you got salary caps to deal with. But that bridge deal is meant to be a short-term, medium-sized deal before the big one. And I think this is the same thing. UCF and Terry Mohajir, talk to other companies. We know that. We know they talk to Adidas. The thing is, they looked at the outside forces, COVID, product issues, supply chains, all these different things that have played a role in the world right now. As he flat said, this is not a good time to sign a new apparel deal. So you know what? You sign a 2-year, this bridge deal, you kick the can a little bit down the road. You also take care of the end of the American into the Big 12. So now you come into 2024, you're expecting the market to be a little more stable, supply chains to be a little more stable. You're in a new conference. The value of your product has now changed because the perception of the product has changed. You're in a much more prestigious and, highly viewed conference, and that affiliation makes a difference. So you have all these different factors playing in that makes 2024, it makes a lot more sense to line it up. And I also attribute the 2024 similar to what Missouri did when they joined the SEC in 2012. They did a full rebrand at multiple sports, basketball, football, all of them were hit. In particular football. And I did a side-by-side in the article to show they did a radical rebrand. They changed their logo, new Nighthead, not coincidence. I'd like to point out, they even flat out said, this is in anticipation of moving to a new conference, new age, new look, new. It's all about new changes in the air. And one of the things that, being a uniform junkie, a real uniform junkie, what I love the most about uniforms? Them changing. I love when they change. Even if I love a great design, I love the evolution, and it's not just the look, it's the feel, it's the product material, it's the weight and the feel and how it is. Because, you want your players to be in the best position to win. Part of that's looking good, part of that's feeling good, and being able to do your business on the field with the proper equipment, light jerseys that you're allowed to get, air into that, prevent you from, passing out from cramps or heat stroke or something like that. I mean, there's more to it than just the look. I mean, that's what the fans see, but there's more to it. And one of the things when UCF did the redesign in 2016, which was the last real redesign, they had a couple of jerseys that came in on a newer template, but basically the majority of the Space Games and the 16 are all based on an old template that really isn't used anymore. That template was new in 14 and was pretty much phased out by the end of 2017. All the big schools have moved on to new templates, but UCF has stuck to the current one. That's partly because the bump that Scott Frost gave UCF with Nike, which included a 2-year extension of the contract, which is why it ended in 21 and not 19, was also including this big custom work. You notice it was only for football. That's where the benefit only came from football. UCF's kind of worked with not a great agreement, but partly with it being an extension of the current arrangement. Once again, we can't see what the contract is.
I know you're thrilled about that.
I will be honest. I actually wanted him to switch from one to the other just for that reason. But you know what? We'll punt it for 2 years and we'll try again.
A couple of things I wanted to clarify real quick when we had the chance. So Mohajer said to Jason Beatty in the Orlando Sentinel, quote, "We'll probably extend for 2 more years. Where we are in the supply chain and with some of the other brands changing CEOs at this particular time, I don't think this is the best time to be negotiating a new deal, to be very candid with you." So it sounds to me like it's not on the dotted. They haven't signed it on the dotted line, but it looks like that's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
right?
And it makes sense.
One other thing, and this I got to give credit to Eric DeSalvo, and I know that he probably enjoyed answering this question from RBJ2K1 on Twitter. He said in response to this tweet, he said, "We do have control over these new threads and no gold jerseys are not happening."
And you know what my response was?
Thank God.
Thank God.
I second that.
I put up on top in front of my closet, took a picture and threw it on the article. I have all 3 of the gold jerseys UCF has used. I would never want us to go back. They've never done it right. It's never been the right shade. And once you add a little bit of moisture to that, it looks really bad.
Has any team, college, pro, whatever, pulled off gold jerseys?
Well, I mean, Missouri's gold, which is like more like a darker marigold yellow. It's not really a gold. They've tried that, which didn't look completely terrible. But again, it comes back to the fact that once you add a little bit of moisture to any of these gold shades, I mean, it looks terrible. And you don't, you want that look good, feel good thing, but I mean, it just doesn't translate. And thankfully, Eric and his team know that. They've been around long enough. They know gold doesn't work well. And it looks great as an accent color. You can use it for pants. You can use it for helmet. It's a great accent on the jersey, but it doesn't stand alone well. I mean, Kent State had this weird gold, and it didn't work. It just kind of looked weird. And when they had an all gold uniform, it just, and I love Kent State. It's where my mom went to school, but come on, no, it didn't work.
Would you say?
I remember there was a basketball. There was one year that basketball had some gold jerseys, and I thought those worked out pretty well. Do you know the ones I'm talking about, Drew? I think it worked because it was like a darker shade.
Well, that's the thing. When UCF rebranded in 2007, they did it what they called Vegas Gold. Because if you actually look from the old 2006 logo, the Lance logo, to when 2007 came out, the UCF block and the nitro they used, they were darker. They were much darker as far as the shade of gold. UCF did not change their uniforms at that time. So you still had this weird color gold that now didn't fit anything because you got rid of the gold helmet that it actually somewhat matched with. You've changed the color of the gold in the logo, but nothing is actually set to go to that color, which is a much darker Vegas gold, meant to be kind of like gold coin kind of look. Yeah, they just don't do it. And I don't know if it's because they couldn't or they just wouldn't, but it didn't match anything. And that just made it even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because I looked up gold football jerseys for a second, just see some comparisons. And I noticed that Arizona State had something that was a gold, but it looked a lot more like a yellow.
Arizona
State's gold is more yellow.
Yeah, they're more yellow. UCF, it flat out says gold. We see the block. It's a gold. They've lightened the shade since 2007. Back when they did the mini rebrand in 11, which was quietly done. The swinging bat nitro was taken away, and you got left with a lesser amount of marks. The shade lightened up. They went slightly away from this dark Vegas gold that just never really happened anywhere. Even then, it's still a gold as opposed to a yellow. The Sun Devils is more of a dark yellow, like a dark sun yellow, but not like more of a metallic gold that UCF really looking for.
It's like the desert yellow that you see on the Arizona State flag, right? It's kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all right. So anthracite is going the way of
the dodo.
Of the nighthead,
and here, let me jump on that real quick.
Slightly looking off slightly looking off center nighthead, I should say.
Let me jump on that one real quick. More than half of the Big 12 has anthracite because which is the Nike proprietary for their gray charcoal uniforms. More than half of the Big 12 actually utilizes that. For UCF, it becomes a redundant color. You have black. Anthracite is more of a gray, but if you're not paying attention, you may, that's black. If you have nothing to compare to, that's their dark uniform. UCF doesn't need another dark uniform. I love pewter. I love the pewter uniforms. I think they're outstanding.
When we say pewter, by the way,
it's really closer to a silver.
Okay, because this is where I get confused. Because every time I hear pewter, I think of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers,
right? And
gold
their
copper pewter
and their pewter is with a little more gold in it. If you actually look at it,
which pewter is pewter?
Pewter's I thought the same thing. I think more of that's a selling point. It's really more of a silver than anything else. But the thing is, when UCF did the 2007 rebrand, look at all the logos. Silver was a color in the logos. It was a tertiary color. It actually makes a lot of sense that UCF has a silver-like, uniform to go with the fact that until the rebrand in 2011, silver actually was in all the logos. It's one of those things that was quietly dropped. They didn't mention it. They just quietly removed it, but it was there. And so it kind of makes a lot of sense that that tertiary color is used. But when you have white, you have black, something like a silver, which is kind of in between the two, makes a lot of sense. And then you have the one outlandish piece, which is the space game, where we go with the Canaveral blue, which is kind of that fourth one that is the complete change the pace, out of left field kind of thing. And I think it makes for a great combination. I think fans will get over not having anthracite pretty quickly.
So are you saying? I'm sorry, Bryson. I want to get this question in. So you're saying that you anticipate them keeping pewter, but obviously anthracite's gone. Anthracite's gone, but they're going to keep pewter. Is that right? I
think they'll end up keeping it. It makes for a good third color, which still fits the school colors without going, the Canaveral blue, which is a complete alternate thing. But it just makes a lot of sense. UCF has 4 helmets: gold, white, a silver. You call it whatever you want. It's really like a silver color, and black. There's no anthracite helmet. You have to mix it. So you at least have something with that. Now we know the gold jerseys don't work. They have gold pants, which works again with the accent, and a gold helmet can work. if you make if the colors all jive together. But the other ones all have corresponding helmet color to jersey color, and I think that helps work. Anthracite, again, was redundant. It's not needed, and I think fans will will be able to move on pretty quickly once the season starts going.
I just hope we retain the Pegasus, the light Pegasus on the shoulders, because I just love that. Go ahead, Bryson. You had a question?
Well,
I was gonna say real quick. Eric, in one of his other Eric DeSalva, in one of his other comments, did say with a picture, kind of hold on. So I think Pegasus is going to still be around, maybe a little bit different, but I don't think Pegasus is going away.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because I think this is a great kind of summation of all that we're talking about, because another fan tweeted their concerns at Terry Mohajer, and they got a quote tweet from Executive Associate AD of Brand Advancement, Jimmy Skiles, who said, we won't be limiting the brand. As Dr. Seuss said, why fit in when you were born to stand out, and included a picture of various.
I love Jimmy for quoting Dr. Seuss. Good on you, Jimmy. It makes perfect sense.
It's what I go back to. The anthracite is used because anthracite's a Nike thing, and Nike's fits most of the Big 12. Anthracite's used by most of these schools because black is not one of their colors. Oklahoma State being the real big exception to that, but they don't have gold; they have an orange. So UCF's taken advantage of the fact that they have black as a color. They don't need anthracite like everybody else. It was different in the American where no one else was using it. Big 12, everyone's using it. So be different. Don't use it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just brought up that tweet from Jimmy. I think that's a really interesting point. Where he's got, look at this. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the pictures like in the Big 12.
By Terry Mohajer, by the way.
You have West Virginia, Kansas, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU, Houston, Iowa State, all with anthracite jerseys. And they do look
all the same.
They all.
The designs are a little bit different, but it looks all. The
TCU one's got camouflage on it. That's the only thing. But you're right. They do all look the same.
Yeah, I think UCF. There's Cincinnati, Oklahoma State. They both have black in there, but you know what? There's only one black and gold school. It's UCF, and they're going to utilize the living daylights out of that.
I'm glad this one person who was replying said, UCF is not Penn State. We are the future, and image is everything. And Jimmy was like, yeah, you're exactly right. And something, controversial take, but this is how I feel about it. I don't care. I think Penn State has the worst uniforms in college football.
It bores me. It's boring.
Unbelievably boring.
It's boring. But
I can't tell if it's black or navy blue, and you have just this white helmet. It's like, what are you wearing? Your practice helmets? It is 2021, man. Put a logo on that stuff.
Hey, as a Cleveland Browns guy growing up, I can't agree with totally. They tried, and
the Cleveland Browns have more creative uniforms than Penn State. I will say.
Well,
that.
Yeah, you got plain, but I'm going to make a hotter take than you regarding UCF's uniforms.
Bring it.
UCF is not drip U. Why? Because that requires staying fresh. And when your last fresh was in 2016, you're no longer fresh. So yeah, that's why I'm excited about now, because part of it looks good, but you know what? It's old. It's stale.
I don't know if you can say we're not drip U, but I do think when you are drip U, you got to keep keep up with the Joneses.
You got to be a trendsetter, and sitting on something for 6 years is not setting a trend. That is, setting a trend and letting the trends move past you. That's being the first to buy a BMW, but then you don't buy any. When it started becoming popular in the 70s and into the 80s, but never buying another one again, and the rest of the world just passes you by. If you want to be the top of that area, and there's nothing wrong with that, you gotta be ahead of the curve. When Scott Frost was hired and we first came out with these uniforms in 2016, he said, expect these for 2 years. And then the plan was that he would have new ones designed for 2018. Well, he left, so that didn't happen. 18, 19, 20, 21, nothing happened. They used the same thing. Basically, we were sold a certain bill of goods, situations have changed, and then everything just stopped. And they just kind of sat back on what they had. Fans love it, yes. But you're at that point, you're almost lying to yourself. We're the best uniforms ever, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, in 16 and maybe 17, but now you've gotten old, you've gotten stale. and you need change. And now we're starting to see change.
That's a little harsh.
It's always been my opinion on it. If you want to be viewed as a top uniform designing school, and you have a uniform for longer than 4 years, you're doing it wrong.
I think you're a little harsh. I do agree that there's time for an update, but you know what? We're going to see some stuff this summer, and at least that's the hope. And when we get to the Big 12, I think you're right. That's where it's going to be. That's where the big changes are going to happen.
And Jeff, you've been in the program, around the program, as long as I have. You remember, in 04 and /05. You remember in 10. You remember in 13, and you remember in 16. Uniform unveilings are exciting. There's a lot of excitement.
It's Christmas Day.
Well, I mean, I'm Jewish, so for me, it's the first night of Hanukkah.
Okay, it's the first night of Hanukkah.
I mean, but I mean, it really is. I mean, it's a very exciting time. I think a lot of newer fans really have never experienced this from the standpoint here of, when they come together, they show up the new helmets and the new uniforms. Oh my God, when they came out in 16, the UCF world stopped. Like, holy moly, what just happened? This is amazing. It even happened in 13 when you had the Rutgers style stripes and everything. It was just something else. But now it's, we're kind of complacent.
Go ahead, Bryson. You got a question?
I was just saying, I actually was learning this in one of my classes that I've been learning, but do you remember how crazy people went when Operation Blacktop happened and people thought that they were going to do a black helmet reveal? Granted, it was for a new basketball court, but the buzz that stuff is generated, like you mentioned before, people go nuts for aesthetic reveals. And I think that I just couldn't agree more with your point before.
Yeah, because that 13... in 2013, when they revealed that black helmet, which when you actually look at it, it's like, man, this thing's really ugly. Like, holy moly, everyone was like, they lost their stuff. They absolutely went nuts. And holy geez, we're having a black helmet for the first time since we were at 1AA school in 94. This is amazing. It didn't matter if it was really just kind of an ugly thing and just kind of weird styling, but it was just the fact it was unveiled. It was new. It was different. And that's what excites people. It's the law of diminishing returns. It's economics. You get more and more of the same thing. Your perceived value of it goes down. So now you're bringing something new to the table. It's going to bring that excitement back up to a very high level of, oh, it's a new era. It's a new thing. Oh, we got new stuff. Yeah. And then, then you kind of work your way back down over time, and then you do a new refresh and you bring it back up to that high level, and the cycle continues.
Side note, I really liked the blacktop basketball court.
Well, I was talking about the black helmet.
I know. But I know, but Bryson brought that up, and we got rid of it. I don't know why. I thought it was cool.
I'll be honest. I actually thought the black top was going to be darker.
I was fine with it the way it was.
Well, no, when they were hamming it up, when everything was being hammed up, and then they showed.
Then you didn't see the wood grain, and you didn't see the detail.
Well, yeah, I was like, I had one expectation. They came with another. I wasn't disappointed with it. It's just it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. But I'll take that any day. I'll take the blacktop any day over that roller coaster thing that they used for a while with the eye. The Eye of Orlando. I did not like that at all.
People just love aesthetics.
It wasn't so bad. All right.
I'll take the blacktop over that.
All right. I want to get Bryson as we switch gears as we finish up here. Just kind of wrapping things up. We got some tennis news that you wanted to talk about, Bryson, real quick.
Yes, we did. So men's tennis finally got another win. First win since January 30th. And women's tennis got their first win against a ranked team, against number 17 Baylor. And men's tennis and women's tennis both managed to defeat the number one doubles pairs in the country in both men's and women's tennis. You can read more about that in my Nightcap article, but I wish we could talk about more on here, but tennis had a really good weekend too. It's been a pretty great week for UCF sports.
Yeah. And let's not forget about men's golf either. They finished top 5 in the Coral Creek Club Invitational at +11. Johnny Travali finished tied for 3rd in that event as well. So that was another good week for UCF men's golf as well. Congratulations to Bryce Waller and his crew for a job well done down in that tournament. All right, let's finish this thing up here on Black and Gold Banneret. You can follow us as usual at UCF Banneret _SBN. UCF Banneret _SBN. By the way, just a reminder, if you followed us before on our old handle, you probably don't follow us on our new handle. So look up that handle, follow us there. Follow us each individually. Bryson is at It's Bryson Turner. Andrew is at Statboy Drew. Also, thanks to Kyle, who is at the SOTG for the student of the game, and Eric Lopez Elo. Also, thanks again to Anne-Marie Blaney for spending some time with us. AM Blaney on Instagram. That's where she wants you to follow her as she continues her professional career and follows UCF Track as well. If you subscribe to our podcast, we thank you so much. Please leave us a rating. If you don't, you can subscribe to us wherever you want. Apple, Android, wherever you get your podcast, just search for Black and Gold Banneret. All right. So for all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret, I'm Jeff Sharon saying thank you so much for listening. Really enjoyed it this week. Another busy show. We got a busy weekend coming up. Number 2, team in baseball coming to town. We got softball tournament. We got basketball happening. Couple big road games coming up. Basketball tournament next week for the conference. It's getting wild out here at Black and Gold Banner. All right, send help. For all of us here, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.